Hello, and welcome to another Tactical Corner. Today we look at a competitive game that I had against Magnus and 3 Renegade Knights. This is the Tactical Corner. Stay tuned, improve your game, leave a comment down below, and let's get started. Hello and welcome to another Tactical Corner here on SkaredCast, where we discuss the battle report that happened earlier in the week. And this week's action began with a Magnus list with 3 Renegade Knights against the Drukhari. Playing out of the book, this list is quite nasty. It's 4 drops, so it's more than likely going to go first at 2,000 points. So, a Knight player with either Robute, Guilliman, or Magnus can more than likely plan on going first. I was running a combination of units, mostly Cabalite, with a battalion and a flyer wing. Essentially, I had Ravagers, I had Venoms, what I would usually take to a tournament. Now, it's not as optimized as I could make it. There's no Razorwing flocks, and the unit selections aren't exactly optimized with the Helions and things like that. But I was hoping to be able to test my list against one of the more competitive armies. So I planned for it, I was mentally prepared, and I really wanted to see what would happen. Now, I had played Evan previously on a game that we did not film, that my Dark Eldar took on a Imperial Guard armored company with Manticores and Griff and the mortar batteries, and I did quite well, even if I went second. Now, this battlefield, the lava map, that's the first thing you wanted to take a look at in terms of tactics. It was relatively open in the middle, so I wanted to try and use the flanks to get around using the big hills to my advantage. Now, Evan did quite well. He took first turn, and he didn't really kill much on the first turn, but he threw Magnus up right into my line, right next to my objective. And to be honest, this was the biggest mistake I made in the game. Magnus is a very nasty unit. He's got great ability to put out mortal wounds. He's also extremely fast, and he will more than likely kill anything he touches in close combat. Now, in retrospect, if you haven't watched the battle report, I highly recommend you do. But this second turn, where I focused everything I had on Magnus, was a mistake. Now, what I should have done should have been to focus my fire on one of the knights. Ideally, the knight that was coming closer to my lines. 2 reasons for this. Number 1, the knights had the capability of doing multiple damage to different targets along my army. What this meant was that even though I did bring Magnus down, his knights were the ones that did the most damage throughout the game. They were shooting, they were moving, and they essentially turned my army into rubble. Now, there were 3 different knights. One had a repeater battle cannon and a chainsword, one had 2 Gatling cannons, and one had a Gatling cannon and a battle cannon. I should have focused on the knight with the double Gatling cannons, because those Gatling cannons were quite nasty. But I should also have targeted that purple knight that got close to my objective. At the end of the game, that's the knight that was able to move up and really kill the units that I had securing my objective. Had I destroyed that knight pushing up, he would have been forced to push another knight forward, which meant that essentially I would have had a better chance later in the game at stalling his advance, knowing that I wouldn't have lost so many models to the shooting that he had. So that was the biggest mistake I made. And also, rifles, splinter rifles, poison weapons, anything like that can hurt Magnus. They hurt Magnus because he's essentially a monstrous creature. But those things are pretty useless against a knight. So the knights focused fire on all the lances and blasters that I had, killed all of them, and eventually just mopped with the rest of my army. So here's the question. What would you have done in a situation like this? Remember, this is a competitive game. This is not a beer and pretzels game. If I wanted to play a beer and pretzels game, I would have asked Evan for a beer and pretzels game. I wanted to get tough. I'm looking at making myself the #1 Dark Eldar on the ITC circuit. I'm planning on going to a Las Vegas Open, and therefore I need practice. So leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think, because this was a controversial battle report. Please support the channel on Patreon if you haven't already. Help me create more content. And this is Skari, your grateful host, and we'll see you next week on the Tactical Corner.